Hope everyone had a relaxing and peaceful holiday and ready to hit the ground running. So Don, can you perhaps just introduce or tell us what's going on with the transition to the new task force? And perhaps we need to take a roll before that and approve the minutes, and then we can jump into the agenda.
Yeah, I'm trying to get people as they sign on here. I don't see, is Terrence signed on yet? I don't see him.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Okay, gotcha. Denal will not be here. He has a meeting conflict. Susan Flam. I don't see her signed on yet. Dan Haas. Don't see him in here. Supervisor Hoatling.
She just wrote, I think she just wrote that she had a conflict too.
Okay. Yeah.
Just saw something come through. Susan just joined as well.
Okay, gotcha. Kara Humphrey. Let's see her. Claudia Kenny. Supervisor Knott has a conflict. A lot of county meetings going on this morning, apparently. Bill Mancini, I think I saw you on here. Yep.
That's not Bill.
I'm here. Matthew Mercier. Don't see him. David, you're here. Michael O'Hara here. Patrice is out today. Jennifer Phillips.
Here.
You're here. Steve Powers, I think I saw you on here somewhere.
Here.
Yep. Jolene Race. She is retired. So but she will be back when she gets appointed. I don't see her on here today. Jody Rail here. Bruce Schenker.
I don't see him.
Nope. Okay, Tara has a sick child today, so she won't be signing on. And Christina Bonsack also has a conflict with the meeting. Audrey, I think Audrey is. I saw you come on here. Yeah, and Deborah. Okay, that looks like it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the minutes. Thank you for sending the minutes around, Don. Any comments, corrections on the minutes?
Yeah, not as well done as Maureen used to do. That was my job this month since she also retired. But I did add the date at the top of the minutes. I noticed I had neglected to just says month, date, year at the top, but I did add December 7th, 2023 at the top. So.
Well, thanks for doing double duty there. Do we have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes then?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. Great. I'll just say, any opposed, please speak up or make it known. Great, minutes approved.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Don, are we looking for a replacement for Maureen to take minutes for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Patrice was put in, has to go through the civil service department and everything, but
Okay.
I believe she has submitted all the paperwork to start looking for a replacement for her.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And Don, if you could give us or Supervisor Adams an update on the transition to the new task force composition and membership, please. That would be helpful, I think, for everyone.
I did get I asked Supervisor Collins because he had sent me an email. So I asked him if there had been any appointments at the Board of Supervisors organizational meeting on Tuesday. He said there were not. So they didn't do that on Tuesday. I think, and I think it was Supervisor Adams can probably answer this better than I can, but the Board of Supervisors meet on the second Wednesday. I don't know if that's going to happen then or not, Brenda.
No, so what's going to happen is these are going to go through committee.
Okay,
So, and that meant that they had to be tabled until the February meeting. There will not be a January meeting because there was the organizational meeting.
Mhm.
And Patrice was kind enough to send a list of those towns who had not identified their candidates yet. And Ron Knott and I have taken upon ourselves to call our respective caucuses and ask each of those supervisors to advise us of their appointment schedule. So we're trying to get everybody in for the January committee meetings will start next week and the week after. And then hopefully we'll get the majority of the new appointments online by the February meeting. But that'll be the March meeting for us, right? Because
Right,
we meet
because we-
early now, right?
Yeah.
And,
So,
I did send the calendar, and I did point out the fact that our meetings were calendared earlier in the month and that this would have an impact or delay on the transition. But it was felt that because of the new bylaws, it had to go through committee and February was the earliest.
okay, thanks. Well, for those of us that are not continuing on, thank you for participating for 2 more months. It sounds like this meeting and next meeting, it is important and we appreciate it. And I think, these are just kind of the growing pains of a new system, and hopefully the next appointments happen earlier in the previous year so that we don't have this again. But I think that's just part of the nature of something new that people weren't accustomed to in terms of scheduling. Bill.
I just want to ask Brenda, did the supervisors have a list of the villages in the county that were contacted also? And then
Yes, it was towns and villages.
Okay. 'Cause I've been
And
after the
I
mayor.
can tell you, I don't have a list in front of me, Bill, but I can let you know if you need any more information.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a quick meeting, first of the year, and we're setting the table both for next month, but also for the year ahead, and that'll take some time. So hopefully people have ideas on the planning item below. We've got some that we're going to bring to folks later on in the meeting, but I don't think this will take a long time. And if there's anything additional, just let us know in the chat. We wanted to give a quick update first on the tree planting campaign. So this is an effort that arose, as we know. The task force supported it, the EMC supported it, and now there's a group of us that have been meeting with potential partners, and it's we're working on right now identifying the sites. We think we've done that, and developing design plans for those 2 tree planting projects, which I'll show you on a map in a minute. The idea is this will happen around Earth Day, Arbor Day, and we will have a call for volunteers, and we'll get out there. We'll have the materials staged, the holes dug, and people there to guide folks on how to plant. And so that's the vision for it, and we're trying to keep try not to be too ambitious this first year because we want it to be successful, obviously. And there's an interest from, there's no real home for this. It's just kind of a project that arose with a bunch of us and the task force. So we're hoping, and we've gotten an indication that, if this works well, that Partners for Climate Action, which has issued in the past a series of restoration grants last year, and they're planning on doing that again this year, that they could take this in-house and they could make this part of that project, a public planting, where we're going out and working with these partners like schools and municipalities more proactively in the future. So that's the goal. We'll see if we can get there. Let me just share my screen real quick, and I'll just show you what we're thinking now. And there's not much else to say about it just yet, but can't share it. Don, can you help me? Brenda.
So you said around Earth Day, many towns have Earth Day celebrations. Do you know when it will be so that we don't have we don't schedule a conflict?
We haven't set a date yet, so we have flexibility to do that. There's Earth Day is one weekend, and Arbor Day is the next weekend, I think.
Oh, so
those are both.
Okay.
That's a good window to be doing bare root planting. It's in April, obviously, mid-April. but we have some flexibility. We want to do it on a weekend, obviously, to maximize people's participation. And we have 2 sites. So, but it's a good point. So thank you. We'll try to, maybe we do this on Earth Day. Maybe we don't. I don't know. We can debate whether that makes sense, or maybe there's too many conflicts.
Well, Earth Day is a Monday. So I'm assuming if you do your event on a Sunday, we'll do ours on a Saturday, or vice versa.
Yeah,
That kind
I
of
mean, it
thing.
would be the weekend before. I know it's on a Monday, but
Yeah.
it should be a national holiday. I mean, come on. So someday Earth Day will become a national holiday, maybe. But so anyway, and then the next weekend, Saturday or Sunday on the Arbor Day weekend. So we will decide that soon. We have flexibility. We're making it up as we go along. I don't know if I have access to share my screen. Do you know, Don?
I can't give it to you. I don't know if Oswaldo is still.
Okay, it doesn't matter. So I mean, it's not
I can't do
important.
it, Dave. No.
So we're basically working with 2 partners, the Hudson School System and Sweet Freedom Farm, which is in Germantown, just south of Hudson. And the school has been very open through Jim McDarby, who's a science teacher there, who's terrific, and Tyler, his last name escapes me, who's the head of facilities, who's also been very open to this. And in addition, we met with Columbia Green, and they're very open too. Allison, who's the facilities manager there. So there's potential for follow-on work there. There's a lot of interest. And we discussed with CLC and the city of Hudson, Charles Williams Park, and the access to the new planned access to the Greenport Conservation Area from that area off of North 2nd Street, Empire Trail. And that has a lot of potential too for restoration and tree planting. There already is a project to restore that park down there with funding coming from Spark of Hudson. I think in the order of like $400,000 or $500,000 to take that kind of forgotten park and really turn it into something and get access from up high in Hudson down into that area, which then leads back up eventually toward Greenport, toward the landfill and toward Greenport. So there's this vision down there that's coming together, which is pretty cool. We're not going to work with them this year. We thought that the Hudson School System and Sweet Freedom made sense. There's 2 locations at Hudson. One is adjacent to the high school. The other is right along the main road there in front of the middle school, which is the lower school, or vice versa. I think it is actually the lower school now, but the name on the sign is the middle school. It's the old middle school, down the road from the high school and the current middle school, which is that other building. And then those are pretty straightforward. It will not be a very intricate design. It will be trees and tubes at some spacing that allows them to mow, to bring diversity, shade, and the other benefits there. And then at Sweet Freedom Farm is a nonprofit farm that's in Germantown. For folks that don't know, they provide food and food access to families who have members that are incarcerated or in the criminal justice system and are struggling and need help. And they also have a CSA, and they're very volunteer based, and they have a whole community of people that are part of what they do. They're connected to Kite's Nest in that Kaya Weidman, who runs Kite's Nest, and many of us know. She lives there and also is one of the founders of Sweet Freedom Farm. And so it's a really cool grassroots kind of important community farm. And the project there is really putting in a hedgerow along the road 9 between one of their production fields and Route 9. And there's another area that's a smaller area with ecological plantings. So that's I just wanted to give people the update. That's what we're working on. We're working with Barbara Huey, many of us know she's on the EMC. She's a landscape designer. And Shanti, why am I forgetting her last name? I'm still groggy from the new year. Shanti,
Nagel.
what was her last name, Matt?
Nagel.
Nagel, right. Thank you. Design Wild is her firm, and we're working with the two of them to design these two projects. So happy to open it up to any kind of questions or comments. It's a little early.
Will there be any signage that associates this with the work of the task force?
We're hoping better than signs. We're hoping T-shirts.
Okay.
Haven't gotten that far. I mean, we're really we can't have anything if we don't have the sites, the partners, and the design. And we're over the holidays. We're trying to continue to keep the momentum going. We're picking it up this week, but we really need to nail down. I think Sweet Freedom will be easier because they're a closely held kind of nonprofit that isn't very bureaucratic. The school system may prove to be more challenging, so we'll do what we can. In any case, we'll hope to get some T-shirts made that we could give out to the volunteers, and we need to raise some money, not a huge budget, but raise some money. So we'll be going out for sponsorship, various companies and organizations, which would go up on the T-shirt as well. So there'd be a place for the task force to get recognized there, and maybe some signage. I don't know. Steve.
Hey there. Questions in terms of how many trees are involved and where's the funding coming from to buy the trees?
The trees we're thinking it's probably a total of anywhere from 400 to 800 trees on the two sites. Think about a hedgerow. You're planting in very tight spacing, right? This is the idea. There is to close off, so you're planting 5-foot spacings, and it's staggered, so you can fit along a 300-foot, 400-foot stretch a lot of trees, and it's not as daunting as it may sound with a bunch of people moving along that. But we're not sure yet how many trees, because we haven't finalized the sites and we haven't finalized the design. We're working hard to do that in the next week or two. The funding will be raising money. So we've talked quietly to people that we'll be asking them for funding, for support, but we haven't gone out to ask people yet because we need the design. We need to know that this is actually a project that's going to move forward this year. And we're working to kind of nail that down. Again, I think with Sweet Freedom, it's looking very likely with the Hudson school system and the two other partners. It may be that becomes a little too challenging to get done this year, and we'll do what we can. We'll do something, and something's better than nothing. We're expecting, it's a modest budget to buy the trees, the tree tubes, the mulch, the compost, to rent the digger, the auger for digging the holes, printing some T-shirts, and the other miscellaneous inputs and supplies, a lot of tools that we need for it as well. So it's probably somewhere in the range, I'm guessing, of, if it's that number of trees, maybe it's $25,000, $30,000, maybe it's a little more. And we'll be going out to nonprofits and companies that typically donate to these types of things. The funding, we've gotten approval from, thanks to Partners for Climate Action, to have the funds go through them. And so it's not really a fiscal sponsorship, because we're not an organization that's going to be around and being sponsored, but in some way they're serving that role to collect the funds, and we really appreciate that.
I mean, I guess technically the CSC could, subject to county approval, use some of the funds that we've collected, not from the CEC program, but certainly, I guess, money that came in from solar, the community solar funds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that money is not, the CEC money is basically stipulated for energy upgrades, but the other money, we've used that other funds for other purposes.
I
idea.
think that money that's interesting and maybe good for the future. But my understanding is that second grant that we ended up getting for the solar, the first solar grant went to solar on the health building, right? The second
Yeah.
grant is going toward landscape equipment, electric landscape equipment. Is that right, Don?
Yes, yeah.
So
It
maybe
still
he
has
spoke
to be-
before.
No, I don't mean the grant money. I mean the money that came in from the developers for the signups for
Oh,
community.
I don't know.
Yeah, we do it.
I haven't heard that we've received any of that money yet, Steve.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We need to follow up on that, Steve. I that's news to me. I thought that we had received that money, and I don't know what that amounts to. So we'll put that on the list of follow-ups. Thank you. Jennifer.
I guess, as per Brenda's earlier question, what is the connection between that project and our task force? Are we sort of just the home, or if no money's coming through us and it's just you involved? I'm just trying to understand what
Well, we
It's
expect.
considered one of our projects, even though we're not giving any money or effort to it.
Well, hopefully we give effort. So, I mean, if we can get money from the county to support this, that would be great. In this, I just assume that would be a heavy lift and maybe not worth it if we can discreetly just raise money from folks in the community, meaning, nonprofits and other groups that support these things. It's not a huge project, but maybe I'm wrong and I shouldn't write that off. But in terms of effort, I'm hoping we've been trying to get to a point where there's a there, right? There's an actual project. We're not there yet. We're close, but we need to have, firm agreements that these trees are going in these spots, and we're not quite there yet. We're working on it. Once we have that, then the tree list, the budget flows from that, the procurement of all of the inputs, and then most importantly, communication and volunteer, efforts, outreach. We're going to need help on all those things. So those are the areas where I think we outreach, communication, getting the word out, spreading the word. That's where this task force and the EMC and its membership can really get that out in their towns and communities. So that's how in this
Okay,
first.
and so in your communications, you're saying that it's a county climate smart activity, or, I mean, is that how we're?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a project that is being supported by the county task force and the Environmental Management Council, because
Okay.
both bodies passed resolutions to support it. What
Right.
that means
Okay.
in practical terms, we're still kind of feeling out and figuring out. But I do think it's the outreach that's going to be the most valuable support that actually comes from both bodies or their membership.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, Brenda.
So I was just going to say, I think the educational component is a big one, because as most towns are going through their adaptability and vulnerability studies, there are discussions about areas, about planting hedgerows or insulating lowlands from, flooding with native plantings. So this is a way to start for people to start to think about those conversations about, and a way for us to advertise ourselves as a source of information for those kinds of projects and an example of those kinds of projects is what I was thinking.
I think that's really well put. And I do think, one of the goals that we set out early on, two goals were to inspire people with an actual project where they could participate or know that it's happening in the community and it's not just on some land somewhere that's off to the side, and also to educate people and to let, from how do you actually plant a tree effectively? How do you care for a baby, small tree, a bare root tree, so it's successful, and learning about, native biodiversity and its role in climate resilience.
That's why I think the signage, if we can do it, is important.
Yeah, these are all great ideas, and we're gonna need help. Again, we have to get, we're pushing to try to get these things moved through with these two partners, prospective partners. Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hi. Yeah, I think it sounds really like a lovely project, and perhaps it might qualify for points towards where are we now? Silver, which makes it a natural fit for the committee if we follow whatever their criteria are for the points. And if it's possible to make it a sort of a family-friendly event where kids could attend, then that might be a draw. Also, I guess that'll depend. If it's like right by the side of a busy road, then maybe it's not so great, but perhaps it could be something where little kids could plant a tree, and that might be fun for them. Yeah, and educational.
Yeah, those are both good points. And the more young people we can bring in, and the more we can diversify the community of people who are actively talking and doing things around these issues, the better, obviously. I do think it qualifies us for some points, community forestry, and also not a lot, but something, maybe on the education side as well. More importantly, it helps to build up part of the portfolio that is like the atrophied little arm of the effort. Like, so much of our energy and focus in climate work goes into technology and the shift from dirty to clean technology, whatever that may be, electricity, transport, etc. And the challenge of how to communicate and how to scale up ecological resilience, climate resilience through stewardship, land stewardship is always challenging. And there's just so much energy around that in our county. There's so much going on already with backyard national parks and people watching the Ptolemy video and hosting the town of Taconic, which is where this idea emanated from. The Taconic folks brought it and started, talking about it. There's so much energy out there, and then these community planting days, the ecological restoration grants we're trying to just add more, more examples, more models, and give people more opportunity to learn and see what ideas that, they might want to carry forward as well. So that's why it's important, and that's why I think it's really related to ultimately where we're going and what we're trying to do. So we're a well-rounded task force. So that's it. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thanks for all the interest, and hopefully we'll have many more details by next month, which will allow us to start getting more involved, all of us or anyone that wants to. So Don, where are we at next? Are we going to get Audrey? Are you on the call? Should we shift to the CARP? An update on the CARP?
Sure. I'm here.
Great. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully everybody, like David said, had a good holiday. Good to see everybody. Happy New Year. So I'll just give you a quick update on where we're at with the climate adaptation and resilience planning process. We are pretty much, I think, fully finalized with the stakeholder input gathering activities and process. And at this point, we put out the second survey. We've closed that. And we've also worked with each of the municipalities to develop their vision statements. So we drafted some draft statements and had you all provide some input and feedback on those, which we've finalized. And so at this point, we are pretty much moving on to doing essentially a compilation and compiling of all of the information and data we've collected. We've already developed several things as we've gone along. So we're pulling together all the results and kind of summarizing the vulnerability assessments. And then we're going to be pulling together the feedback from the second survey, which was the selection of adaptation strategies. And we'll be providing those results in summary. And we'll through the rest of this month, be working on preparing the draft plans themselves, to then share back with you and your communities, ultimately to have available to the public for a short period of public comment. So there's a last opportunity actually to provide input on the drafts, and we have till the end of March. I think it's March 28th is actually our kind of drop deadline, to have these plans finalized. So that's where we're at, and we're looking good. And the visioning process, I would say, went very well. It was nice to see. So, and just to mention that the vision itself is also it's worth a subset of points within the climate adaptation planning action in the Climate Smart Communities program. So ultimately, when we do have these finalized, each of the municipalities and the county, I think will have something like 15 points in the Climate Smart Communities program, maybe 18 with those extra 3 points for the vision.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Audrey, so just a question. March 28th is when the draft, you expect a draft for our feedback? No?
No, we'll be preparing hopefully by the end of the month. We'll have the drafts, the end of January, we'll have the drafts ready. And then over the month of February, we'll share that back and share that out for public comment.
Right.
And kind of in the rest of March, we'll work on incorporating that feedback and actually preparing the final documents that we will have ready by the 28th.
And I assume the communication as to the public comment will include various sources of outreach, but also directly reaching out to the town officials
Yes.
participated, letting them know that's
Yep.
their opportunity. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Absolutely. Yep. We actually thought it would be best to give kind of an advance extra week or so to get feedback from the identified stakeholders and town board officials, because we feel that that's probably where we're really going to get the most feedback, and then open that up to a public. So we'll be asking each municipality to post it on their website and share a link for where people can provide. We'll set up a process where people can provide feedback
Great.
on the
Great.
draft.
I saw Brenda's hand up, but can everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute? We're getting some background noise. Thank you. Brenda, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that Dave Harrison from the Columbia County Emergency Management reached out to the full Board of Supervisors. I don't know if you were there, Audrey, at the organizational meeting this week, but the county is undertaking an update of its emergency management plan. And the biggest plank, or the biggest center of activity, is thought to be the climate adaptability piece. So the timing for this could not have been better, because the county has 9 months from January till September to undertake and complete its plan. It's being fast tracked. And if we have this information available in March, it will be an enormous help. So thank you all for getting this done so quickly.
Thank you.
That's great to hear. Okay, any other questions? Comments?
If there aren't any other questions or comments, I just have one quick update. At the last meeting, I had mentioned there's opportunity for us to provide support for some Climate Smart Communities actions through a contract that we have with the Hudson River Estuary Program. So I just wanted to let you all know that we did submit proposals to work with the town of Ghent to include sustainability elements in their comprehensive planning process. We put in a part of our proposal was to work with the town of Stuyvesant to do a Climate Smart Communities assessment. So looking at where they stand right now in the Climate Smart Communities program, and we provided kind of a report. And then we also are working with 3 municipalities to to complete PE9, which is an education and outreach, the education and outreach action that we'll be developing website content and print materials surrounding emergency preparedness, as well as a set of social media posts, which counts for points in the social media part of the Climate Smart Communities program. And as well, we're doing some culvert assessments in the town of Kinderhook. And those communities that we're doing PE9 is town of Kinderhook, Canaan, and the village of Philmont. And I think that's everybody.
Great.
Yeah,
Well,
so
thank you.
we don't have a verification yet. Like I said, we just submitted our proposals, but it's pretty likely that we will be funded and supported to complete those for 2024. And we'll know within the next several weeks. By the end of the month, we should have a confirmation if we're approved. So I just want to let everybody know.
That's great that you're offering those extra services. Thank you for that. We certainly appreciate it in the town of Ghent. And it's great that all these support mechanisms are out there, to reinforce the work that's being done at the local level. So thank you for that and all the work on the CARP. We're excited to see it and dig in. Anything else? Yeah.
One
more
last thing. I just would like if folks can start thinking about these documents are often super text heavy. So if folks could think about ways that we could perhaps compile some pictures it can be for your municipality or countywide is fine, but the inclusion of local imagery can often help strengthen the impact that a document like this can have. So I'm putting kind of the call out if people have imagery and pictures they would like to share. You can reach out to me with them, and I'm gonna probably create like some sort of box folder or something to start collecting these for municipalities. So that'd be
if you've been out and about the last couple of weeks, there was plenty of fodder for photos. With some of the weather events that we've been having.
Right.
Fortunately, it looks like we might get some snow this weekend.
Right.
So that will be nice.
Yeah. And they don't all have to be doom and gloom. Some, attractive imagery of perhaps like those ecological solutions or plantings or activities like that would be great to have as well.
Okay. We've got a bunch of that we can share.
Great. Wonderful.
From the farm. Okay, great. So, and you'll let us know when you have a folder set up that we can drop things into. Okay.
Will do.
Great. Okay. Moving along.
Take care.
Anything else? No. Okay. I think we're going to skip the next item unless you have an update on you're muted. Can't hear you, Don.
We're pretty much done with the tracking the heat pump installs for the county. So it's Christina's concentrating more on the town, village, and city level stuff.
Well, that brings us right into the next point. So do you want to take that one, Don?
Yeah. So we have, as we said last month, we have achieved tier 2 and tier 3 for our heat pump installations around the county. At right about the same time as like days after last month's meeting, NYSERDA updated their Clean Energy Communities grant program. They expanded the amount that these grants, the dollar amounts of the grants, and made some significant changes to it. So just a few things that I'll point out. So we're planning on receiving $120,000 to $150,000 for those tier 2 and tier 3 clean heating and cooling heat pump installations. They have now bumped that up to we're going to get close to excuse me. I have the numbers here somewhere, Dave.
225,
225 to
225,000.
337,500. So more than doubled the amount of grant money that we'll receive just for those two, the tier 2 and tier 3 heat pump installs. And primary reason for that, they've increased the amount that we will get if we locate these projects in a disadvantaged community area, which is Hudson or Greenport. So instead of a $10,000 bonus for those projects, it's a 50% bonus for those projects. And that would apply also to the local municipalities. So all these changes are not just at the county level, but the local, town, village, and city level projects too would get these additional bonuses. So what we are looking at, I've been told tentatively there's a meeting set up at the end of January. The Fleet Maintenance Committee is going to meet and discuss how we're going to spend this grant money moving forward. Purchasing electric vehicles and charging stations somewhere in city of Hudson, town of Greenport. That decision has to be made of where we're going to locate them, which vehicles we're going to purchase, getting estimates for the vehicles, getting estimates for the installation of those chargers, and then we'll be ready to submit all that documentation with our application for the tier 2 and tier 3 grants.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first step. On top of that, once we do all that, we will also get points for purchasing those electric vehicles. We'll get points for installing those charging stations. We will also get additional points for purchasing the electrical landscaping equipment that we're already underway. That grant's already underway. So in addition, without really doing a whole lot of extra work, we'll get another $300,000 on top of that. So it amounts to a significant amount of money for very little work.
Yeah, it's really exceptional.
Yeah.
And it just goes to the prioritization of these programs in the state, the federal budgeting, that this money is being made available so widely. I think for the purpose of I think there's no real debate that these things will happen in Hudson or Greenport. So, it wouldn't make sense to not do that and take advantage of this extra funding at the 337 level. And given that the county activities are so heavily focused in those two communities anyway. So for the purposes of discussing what money we're working with here, I think that higher number is the number we should be focused on and budgeting for. There is some urgency with regard to getting this done, and it's been taking a while to get to the point where we have a concrete plan and proposal for submission. And there's urgency because we could lose. The money has gotten larger. The grant amounts have gotten larger. I don't know how many of those grants are available, but they are limited. There may be many right now, and it may not be that urgent. But in the past, we have lost a grant, the solar grant, because we were a little late. That was only $15,000. It would be a huge shame if we can't take full advantage of this because we can't get our ducks in a row. And I understand the Fleet Maintenance Committee is meeting at the end of the month, and I also understand that that's not a committee that meets regularly, normally. And so we're in communication, email communication with some of the key folks involved, and I've offered on behalf of the task force that we could help pull together quotes for charging options and also for vehicles so that they have the data when they're at that meeting and they're not just sitting down at a meeting and saying, okay, now we need to collect this information. I think they know that, and I hope so, but we haven't heard back yet. So I'm to be honest, a little nervous that this isn't moving faster so we can take advantage of it. And then it's the first I'm hearing that we'd qualify for another $300,000. So that's exceptional. And that means that we could buy 5 more vehicles perhaps, or 6 more vehicles, or 3 more vehicles. I don't know. Put in 4 more chargers. It's transformational, this kind of funding. And if we don't do it comprehensively, if we don't use this $637,000 comprehensively, it's a huge lost cause for the county. It would be a huge blow of not taking advantage of that. And I think the public would be outraged. So I just want to make sure that this is happening. And there is great urgency. I know, Don, you've been working really hard at it, so we appreciate that. But sometimes it's hard to get everyone to realize the urgency of it. That's my 2 cents. Brenda. Can't hear you.
Mute.
I just want to clarify that when we're talking about Hudson and Greenport, we're talking about county operated sites in Hudson and Greenport. Just to be clear, we're not doing something in those towns that we wouldn't
Right.
be.
Yeah. These would all be on county properties. Yes. And county owned vehicles. Yes. Yep. And the urgency, I was on the call with NYSERDA and Tara Donadio yesterday regarding the landscaping equipment grant that we received. I ran this by them. It's not, there's no concern right now over losing those grants as long as we, keep the ball rolling. Like, meeting at the end of January is going to be okay as long as we can, get the resolutions passed in the month or two after that and keep the ball rolling. But that's another change that the state has made to the program is we now only have a 3-month window. Once we submit our documentation that we've attained these goals, we have a 3-month window where it used to be a 5-month window. And also, when I talk about this additional $300,000 possibly available once we buy the EVs and install the chargers, that amount will go down after September in 2024. So significantly. Okay, so that instead of a $300,000 possibility, it would be at least a $50,000 less than that if we don't actually purchase those cars and install those chargers before September 2024. So the changes are they're giving us more money. They want the communities and the governments to do more and act faster. That's my impression. That's why they're making these changes to the grant program. You're muted now, Dave.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. Brenda, you go first.
So so that means that we not only have to look at the cost of the vehicles and the chargers, but the availability, because if we want to get these things installed early before the money starts to downgrade in September, we need to look at availability.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Don, when you say we have 3 months, that means we submit, and then when we get approved based on the submission, we have 3 months to spend the money?
No.
What does it mean?
We have I think it's up to 3 years to actually spend the money. So we don't have to purchase those vehicles immediately. We have to submit our documentation, that spreadsheet that Christina put together that lists the 50 heat pump installs. We have to send that in. We have to have an estimate of the cost of the vehicle. So we have to go on, we have to do a little searching and see what's the best price we can purchase these vehicles at. An estimate of what it's going to cost to install these chargers, and submit all that with our application. Then it gets approved. But after the grant is approved, we have 2 or 3 year time frame to actually make those purchases and install them.
So what
So we
was
have
the
3 months to do
when
the
you were
grant.
when you were referencing it's gone down from 5 to 3 months? What does that refer to?
The time that we have to we send out our documentation, and then we have to Christina's spreadsheets. And NYSERDA responds and says, yes, we see that you've done the work. Now you have 3 months in order to actually submit the full application, which includes a big spreadsheet with all the specifics about which cars we're going to buy, where they're going to go, how much they're going to cost, estimates, and all of that. We have in a letter of support from the Board of Supervisors. The chairman has to sign a letter of commitment that says, yes, we're going to spend this money on this specific project. We have 3 months to do all of that.
So really what we need is a commitment, a firm commitment to submit the preliminary application for approval, because that will then create the urgency to get it done. But we want to have as many ducks in a row as possible. We want to know what cars, ideally, what locations, what chargers. My understanding is that there's been some preliminary kind of research into cars and costs and availability. And there's been a lot less information gathered on the EV charging options. And that's the concern, is that we're not being, the county isn't being proactive about gathering that information. And we're hoping we can get a meeting. I don't know if there's any additional, information. I would hate for this. It would be really unfortunate if the end of January came around, the fleet maintenance committee got together and no work has been done prior to that. So, it's all about, okay, now we need to go out and reach out. Now's the time to go. We can go to 3 or 4 or 5 different EV charging companies and get quotes if we know where they want these things. Has that even been decided? And there's no transparency in any of this. There's the committee and the members that I know they're busy, and that's the issue. I don't think anyone's intentionally not being transparent, but there's no, we're here to help. We could help gather that information. We could support this process. We're here to also say it's urgent, but if no one is willing to take our help or do the fact finding, then we're left to just kind of scratch our heads and hope, and that's just not good enough. So I don't know if there's an update on whether we can have a meeting to plan before this January fleet maintenance committee meeting, but I think that's necessary.
I think this is an offline conversation, because I think it requires coordinating not with one, but with 3 separate committees. And I agree with you and with Don that pre-planning would be extremely helpful given the timeline. But I think this is really a county government conversation as opposed to a task force conversation. So I would
Great.
suggest we take it offline, and I'd be happy to help you with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds good. John.
Yeah, this is great news about the increased funding and all. And I can see that the county is in a position, has the scale where they can move and take advantage on it. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with my superintendent of highways and our supervisor, and we talked just briefly about some of the stuff. And I'm kind of stuck as to at what point at the local level we can start taking advantage of some of this stuff. Does anybody, can you offer some insights, or is this just something that we need to sit back and try to keep track of?
Well, if Steve's going to answer it, I'll let Steve answer it first, because he's probably the best person to do that. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I would remind you that since Tara's not on the call, that the CDRPC is having the webinar next Wednesday, the 10th at 1 p.m. I don't know if you got the email about that, to explain all the new and improved CEC stuff. Do you need me to forward you that, or? Yeah.
If you could put that in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah. All right. I'll try to do it.
Or forward it to Don or me, and we can.
I have it. I can forward it. I can
Okay.
forward the email
Right.
to everyone.
Yeah.
Cool.
But there's, it's amazing. There's $25 million that was pumped into this program. And the other thing I heard too is that this is going to end. The CEC program is ending next year. So this money has got to be spent. I don't know what's going to happen to it if it's not spent, whatever. But I encourage everybody to definitely look at what actions you've done in the past that you can now get points for that you couldn't before. I submitted 1,100 points in the last week for programs that we couldn't have gotten previously. Actions that we couldn't have, that we've completed that we couldn't have gotten points for. So there's a lot of potential there. Definitely check that out.
In terms of that knowledge on how to evaluate whether or not you have those points in your community, and whether you are eligible to apply for grants for those points, how do we make sure people are, up to speed? You're up to speed, Steve. I think Don is up to speed. Is this, do you think this webinar will do that?
Well, yeah, I think that'll help. And certainly I think the email that Don's going to forward, there's a link to a PDF, it's another 40-page document with all the different actions in there and the points that you can get credit for there. So it's my new Bible.
Mhm.
So get a copy of the Bible, bring it to your town task force. If you need extra advice or you need someone to help you interpret the Bible, you've got two experts right here, and Don and Steve, who will probably be happy to help.
Sure.
But thank you. But that's, I think, John, I think that's the answer, is really scrutinize. And I'm going to bring this back to our folks in Ghent, do the same thing, scrutinize what it is that we've done and what these changes mean in terms of maybe unlocking new grant opportunities and then applying quickly for them. Does that help?
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
That was
Yeah,
helpful for me too. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll forward that guidance document out to everyone too. And
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. And I don't know if there's anything else on that. We're going to shift to planning for 2024. And I don't think this is a long discussion, but happy to have it be as long as it needs to be. But we've talked a little bit about some of these things, and the two items that continue to kind of rise to a level of interest and kind of timeliness, it seems, are moving toward a county climate action plan and what steps would help us start that process, and who wants to help out in that process among us, like a subcommittee. And the second is improving interaction and coordination between the task forces and the other kind of environmental bodies in the towns and the county government and county task force. I would add other partners, other non-municipal partners, nonprofit partners, like Partners for Climate Action and CLC and others in our community that are great resources as well. And what are ways to do that? And those are the two things we wanted just to talk about a little bit. Open to other ideas as well. This is not anything that is set in stone. On the climate action plan, I mean, I've been kind of pushing that a bit. That's the twin pillar of the resilience plan, and to really move forward with now that we're having a greenhouse gas inventory conducted on our behalf by this capital region effort, we will have an update of the 2010 greenhouse gas inventory that was done for the county with 2023 data, I believe. So that is a key component to planning, or a prerequisite. And the next step is to really wrap our heads around what is this climate action plan? What's in it? What have other communities done that are similar to ours? And so I think it starts with a group of us identifying some of those communities that have some of those examples or models that are out there, other counties, towns in the state that have documents that we can review, and we can put together a real outline for what we would like to see in our plan, how we would structure it, and then a process that would go with that we can envision for engaging decision makers and the public in developing a plan and ultimately getting something approved. So that's how I'm thinking about this in terms of the preliminary work. Bill.
Yeah, in the village of Kinderhook, we undertook a climate action plan about, I don't know, 3-4 months ago. And Tara Donadio was a great source for getting us information, especially with other municipalities, and maybe on a county level, she can do it also, with getting copies of those kinds of plans that are available and work through them. We pretty much, I have a couple of people working on the narratives for it. I had compiled the greenhouse gas inventory, so that's part of it. And if the counties had already done that or in the process, that's a big part of it. I know. Just throwing that out.
Yeah, that's great advice for all of us to remember is the resources that Tara brings to the table. And certainly we'd want to include her in our efforts to do this kind of preliminary work and research. Brenda?
Do I remember there was some kind of limitation? Weren't there two kinds of greenhouse gas reports? And are we doing one or the other or both? I'm sorry not to be able to remember the detail.
Yeah, there's the community and the government function or government reports. And Don is working on a government operations greenhouse gas inventory that's specific to the, excuse me, specific to the infrastructure of the county government and its vehicles and whatnot. The county, the capital region effort that Tara's group is leading up is a community-based greenhouse gas inventory that's much broader, and it uses a lot of assumptions. It doesn't go out there and measure all of these things directly, but it uses assumptions based on population, vehicles, registrations, permits, all sorts of data to kind of estimate fuel flows through the county to figure out what those numbers are.
So we'll have both, Bill. At the end of this process, we'll have both.
We'll have both, and
Ideally.
then when we're looking at levers to pull and prioritizing those levers within the action plan to reduce emissions, we'll have a basis, and we'll be able to identify the sources in some level of detail. And then when the county buys a bunch of electric vehicles in 2023 and puts in chargers, we'll have a very clear demarcation of why county operations transport emissions went down, and what the contribution of the solar on the health building and other on the one of the garages, what that contribution led to in terms of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. At least in theory, that's how it'll work. Jennifer.
And so for the community-based one, does that include land use? The emissions are going to come from the farming sector?
That's a really important question that's been top of my mind all along, and I think it definitely needs to. It doesn't have to. I mean, I think in many communities it doesn't, or it's done on a very cursory basis. But I do think that's it should be a major feature of what we're doing in the action plan. It's a question that I can't answer in terms of the inventory, how much detail they're going to be putting into that. Maybe Don has some insight. He's been more involved in the early days of the planning around that. And I've talked to Tara about it, but haven't gotten, I don't have a detailed understanding of how they're calculating emissions from land use and potential sinks and for land use. But in our county, it's a significant factor, both the sources and the sinks.
Because I know, doesn't CL, well, somebody would have a list of, I mean, we're doing sustainable forestry management. So certainly that would be, we've made a commitment to manage, our woodlots over time. So hopefully that would also be considered woodlot management.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, this is what we had talked to, is it Cale Roberts from eClay? Right? When we talked about hiring them to do this for us before we knew that there was a county-wide effort that was, or a regional effort that was sponsored, we talked a bunch about making sure that we have this information. It may be that this greenhouse gas inventory that's done isn't satisfactory in that regard, and that we need to do additional work. And maybe we work with eClay or another firm to help us bring the data to bear so we can have so we understand, Brenda, what the impact of sustainable forestry, what that actually means in terms of, tons of carbon. And it's obviously complicated, but it can be done. And I think it would be an important model for other similar municipalities of our size, other counties. So I'll follow up with Tara and see if we can get more info on what the nature of the land they used to call it LULUCF, but land use and land use change in this capital region inventory. But I would like to see that whether or not there's a good example of it or not, in the action plans that we look at, I'd like to see our action plan really look at these sectors and our forests, our wetlands, and farms, because it's significant.
Yeah, I'm just now revising my spring climate and agroecology course, and it's the kind of thing that I could put in as like a single assignment for students to seek out other county level inventories and look at how they've done the land use component of it or something. So
Wow.
maybe I'll be in touch with you, David, after this to just coordinate on that a little bit.
That would be amazing.
But I also think that we've had, the state gives tax incentives for people who manage their woodlots. And this would be a return on the state's investment, to keep these lands in lots. So it would be nice to see that it's just not an incentive, but that it has a positive return and, a different kind of return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of there's policy changes that to that. It's 403B. Is that the
I
one of
think
the
so.
the
Yeah.
forest management?
Yeah.
And that there was a proposal a few years ago which failed to change that. That's a 50-acre minimum on forest management plans, and it focuses on primarily economic extraction as the primary goal. The
Right.
changes in the law were 403A or something it was going to be. I don't know how they didn't have an A and they had a B, but whatever. But maybe it was 403, I don't know. But maybe it was C. But at any rate, they were going to change it to 10 acres so more people could get that tax benefit for smaller acreage. And they were going to broaden the definition of what would qualify to include standing carbon and carbon stores and ecological benefits, and not just extraction.
Right.
So there are policy implications of this that what needs to change, and the more the more we can characterize the benefits and quantify them in terms of climate, which is one of the primary goals of the state, the more some of those other departments that maybe aren't aligned can get aligned. The other thing that's really a huge factor is deer management in our area. So one of the major threats to our forests and forest health and their ability to sequester carbon effectively into the future is deer. So there are other policy issues there. A lot of them very complicated. So this is a very meaty area that I think is underrepresented in the work being done in this throughout at the local level throughout our state, maybe beyond, and it would be really, really valuable if we could help move this along here and elsewhere. So very exciting stuff. Jennifer, please follow up and let me know, and I'll talk to Tara. Maybe we have a call with Tara to talk about what's included, what's not included, and get a better handle. What would be great is to have, I'm always hesitant to have subcommittees, but this is one where I do think we do need one. And I'm very excited to jump into this. And if you are also interested, whether it's collecting, reviewing some of these action plans that we get some examples of, and then discussing, helping to develop, framework for a process and for the actual action plan, identifying where we have a need, maybe a gap, like if we're not capturing land use change in our greenhouse gas inventory, figuring out how we solve that problem. If anyone would like to get involved in that with us, I see Jennifer shaking her head, so I should say with me and Jennifer, because I know she's going to be involved. Just let us know. It could be one of the most important things that we do from a long-term legacy standpoint here as a task force. I don't want to overplay it too much, but if we don't have a plan, what do we have? If we don't know where we're at and where we're going, what do we have? We're just implementing projects, which is important, but it doesn't necessarily get us to where we need to get to be. Any other thoughts on just send me an email if you're interested in participating, and then I'll schedule a preliminary call for us to get the ball rolling. And if you have other ideas, just send that along too. The other idea for this year rather, is how do we improve the interaction between and coordination of local task forces and I would say other bodies, other related organizations. Don, you were talking about this a lot. Maybe you want to add a few thoughts on this.
Well, I just have some perfect examples when John asked his question about, about his town. How do we handle those questions that I get on a pretty regular basis, especially from the new folks who are the towns who are just starting out. They don't know where to start. They're all volunteers. They don't have anybody, any paid staff to help them compile the information they need. I don't have any answers to that, Dave, to be honest. I just have a lot of questions about it. How might we help these folks out? How can we organize things a little bit better?
Yeah. Well, we have had some examples in the past of activities that have been great and I think have been effective at bringing people together. And I think we need to do more of those. We had during COVID a Zoom with, I don't know how many hundreds of people on it. That was pretty exciting. We were all sequestered away in our little corners to just see people. But then we had an event at Basilica, I remember, where we had a discussion and people were updating. Steve gave a presentation there, I remember. I know that Partners for Climate Action has played this role in different ways. And, that's, I think, the beginning of a discussion as to what we can offer. Maybe it's just having these various fora where we get together and we invite people and we figure out what our priority kind of presentations are. Maybe, right now, if we had something scheduled, it would probably be around how to maximize your clean energy community points in your community. That would be a great topic for it. We don't have anything scheduled. Maybe we can get something scheduled and that can be our first kind of focal point. This also could benefit from a group to kind of take the reins and run with it.
I kind of remember Columbia Land Conservancy when Christina Vanderlyn used to have these roundtable sessions regarding trails and some other groups like
Conservation Advisory Council.
The roundtable sort of things, and maybe like a couple of times a year we put together. We have a roundtable where we have someone who's specializes in giving a presentation on like maybe the changes to the CEC program or something, and answers questions. So sort of rather than these countywide discussions we have once a month, a little more focus on one specific issue that affects the towns, villages, and cities in general. So something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right, Don. Along those lines, Brenda.
So I haven't looked at the list recently, but I don't know in terms of the incoming members, how many of them are on town, are either chairs or members of their town climate smart task force. But I would imagine that a significant percentage of them are one or both. So maybe one of the things that we should do as part of this transition, to kind of ease Don's way, is to have an introductory meeting for the new members of the task force to, give them some context for the work that we're doing and to bring them up to speed a little more quickly so they can differentiate between the work at the county and in their towns. And maybe we could also, Don, I would have to ask, if they've already been appointed by the towns, I'm assuming the county is not going to object to those appointments. I could ask, I'm going to see a couple of other supervisors today, if it would be appropriate just to go ahead and invite the incoming members to come to the February meeting so we can get them up to speed a little more quickly. And we can also extend your invitations, David, to join one or more of the work groups that you're providing. But something that we can do to kind of accelerate their incorporation into to our work. But I certainly agree. I think it'd be great to do. I mean, one of the founding reasons for establishing this group is that it could be it could support the local town organizations. So I think the idea of having one or more events a year to talk about, common interests or common concerns would be a great one. And I think that, having a group to put together something to talk about the CEC points, changes in system would be great if we could do that.
Mhm.
But I think we want to get these new people on board and up and running as
Yeah.
soon as we can.
Yeah, that's great. All of this is really, really useful and helpful. I think, if Brenda, if you can figure that out and we can invite folks in February, and then maybe in March we could have, or maybe a little bit in February, a little bit in March, we can focus on a quick review for everyone of some of the work that we've done or different aspects of the planning that we've done in the past. So we all benefit, even those that have been on this, from a refresh. And then we look forward with these 2 additional focal areas. We also have the Climate Carnival coming up this year, and that will require more and more work as things go on. And Jolena hopefully will join us at the next meeting. We should have her join us either way, so we can get an update. But yeah, and we will. I think it would be helpful if folks are particularly interested in either of these. Also the Climate Carnival, but I see the action plan as being something that's going to take us a while, and we're going to want to carry through this over a period of time. The other outreach and coordination kind of work, I don't see that as having an end point. That's just a function that we need to play.
Mhm.
And if we can set up some meetings that happen on a regular basis and get a program going that can carry forward, that would be a real accomplishment this year. And setting some goals to some sort of gatherings, maybe a virtual and 2 in person. I don't know, but if someone is interested in really leaning into that, if anyone is, let me know. Let Dawn know, and it'd be great to get someone to take the lead on that. I've already heard from a couple people on the climate action plan. I try not to check my email while we're talking. I'm fully engaged, but I did see that, so I'm very excited about that. That's all I have. That's all we have here, but I don't want to cut short this great conversation. So what else?
I just have one additional. I'm going to try to share my screen here, Dave. Let's see here. I don't know if anybody's seen this yet, but the solar array on the DPW building in Greenport it was connected to the grid early December, and we have this new portal. This is on our Climate Smart Task Force website now. It's its own page where you can go on here and view how the solar array is working. All right, so you can look at a 3-day production. You can see on let's see, today is Thursday. Wednesday was a kind of an off day. Tuesday was a little bit better, had some good sunshine and made a lot of production. And you can click through some of the tabs here just to see how it's been producing over time, how much carbon the system is offsetting, how many pounds of carbon that it's offset, how much energy
That's great.
it's
A
producing.
great educational tool, Don. I'm glad you put it on the website, just for people that aren't familiar with solar,
Yeah.
or those that are, because it's a really it's a great way to connect it to the real world for people and what the impact is. So that's nice. Nice
So
work.
we got some pictures here and a little explanation, and it looked like it's gonna it's offsets more than what the building uses. So they're going to use some of this excess energy to offset electrical costs on other county buildings too. So it's a very productive system.
It's great.
So
And this is
and
how
then
we get.
they'll add to this when the DSS solar array goes live. We'll add that. There'll be another portal that'll show that system. how that system's operating too, once that
And
goes
we'll,
live.
we'll want to advertise the $600,000+ in electric vehicle improvements that happen this year as well, once that happens. So
So
very
Don,
excited.
did we also do this at, is it 501 Warren? Didn't we put solar on, did we do on the,
I don't know.
okay, maybe it was,
I don't know.
I thought we were gonna do the board of, what is it, DMV and, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, just
I'm
want to
not
make
sure
sure
if they
we get
put
all the
solar on
county
that or
buildings
not. I
up,
don't
not
know.
just this one.
And what about the project on top of the Health and Human Services building?
The DSS building?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
sorry.
in product. Yeah, that hasn't been installed yet. That's I think that is like the last part of the project. So sometime in 2024, when that goes live, it'll have the same kind of dashboard that we can add to this page also.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's what people need to see, right? They need to see progress, action, tangible progress. So that's really great that you put it on the website. Thank you. And we'll just keep doing that. Good stuff. Start with a little bit of optimism in the new year. We're going to do some good work this year. Steve.
Along those lines, I just wanted to announce that New Lebanon is submitting for silver tomorrow.
Oh,
CSCS.
yay.
So we'll see. We'll know by, hopefully, it's hard to believe that they can go through all this in February, by first week of February, but that's the plan, I think. So
Good
fingers
luck.
crossed. Thank you. A lot of work.
Leading the way in the county.
Mhm.
Thanks for all that good work you guys do there.
Yeah.
Good example for everyone. All right, that's all we've got. 11:21 on the clock. That's better than noon, right? We have some follow-up, so please let me know if you've got climate action plan interest, if you've got coordination among municipality interest, let Don and I know. And we'll also follow up with Tara and get some more information. Jennifer, we're going to connect as well. There's some follow-ups there. And we'd love to have folks that are not continuing on, participate. And there's an opportunity for people to continue to serve in an advisory capacity. So if you want to continue participating in these meetings, if you're not on the task force, we can work out a way to make that happen. And let me know if that's the case, if you want to continue to stay kind of connected like that, because we really appreciate everyone that has given their time and continues to. So thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.